My dear friends, today we celebrate the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year B. The readings revolve around the themes of hospitality and generosity. From the depths I cry to you, O Lord, listen to my cry. The words of this famous hymn are apt for the widow of Zarephath, whom we read about in the first reading taken from the first book of Kings. Prophet Elijah found himself in a precarious situation, caught in the divine judgment against King Ahab that involved a severe drought and accompanying famine. Hiding from the wrath of Ahab and Jezebel, Elijah is asked to go to an area far away from the capital of Samaria called Wadi Kerith. In this desolate place, God provided for Elijah. The Wadi or brook Kerith provided Elijah with water, and God used ravens to bring the prophet bread and meat morning and evening. God then instructed him to go to Zarephath, where a widow would be commanded to feed him. However, when he met the widow, he was nothing short of shocked. Far from providing for him, she had barely anything to eat herself. She revealed her inner despair, saying that she was finding firewood in order to prepare a meal for her and her son that she suspected would be their last. In this situation, it would be normal to assume that perhaps God dialed a wrong number and Elijah should go elsewhere. But it is in such moments of contradiction and confusion that God works a miracle. Although Elijah saw only scarcity, he spoke about abundance. He brought a word of faith into a moment of deep fear and resignation. God provided the widow and her son the means to survive that terrible drought. Although the lectionary reading ends here, the narrative continues with the widow's son dying after many days. Then it is Elijah, whom the widow had helped all along, who becomes the instrument by means of which God gives life to her son. A powerful theme that emerges from this story is the belief that our hospitality to a stranger may not only help the other, but may actually become the cause of our own survival. God provides in the most unlikely of places and by means of the most unlikely of people. The reading also challenges us to look differently at those people in our midst whom we barely spare a second glance. The immigrant, the homeless, and also the people from a different religion, political affiliation, or culture. Just as surprising as the widow's intervention in the life of Elijah would have been, so we may find ourselves surprised and blessed by those whom we would least expect to serve as our source of survival. There could be a time when we, like Elijah, are faced with a seemingly impossible situation. Possibly you are in a tension-filled situation where you don't know how you're going to make it through and you are just not sure how much more you can take. God's instruction to Elijah is to go to an uncertain place and stay. Not make plans to get out of there as soon as possible, not to bail out because it is impossible, but stay. Just because our world is hard does not mean the answer is automatically to go somewhere else. Often the miracle happens when we give God a chance. In the second reading, taken from the letter to the Hebrews, the author emphasizes that Christ hasn't entered a Holy of Holies constructed by human hands, but has instead gone into heaven, into the presence of the Father for us, serving as an advocate. The earthly high priest sprinkled blood of a goat or a bull to redeem the people from their sins, but the blood used by Christ was his own, his blood shed on the cross. If Christ had been required to make an annual sacrifice, he would have suffered something akin to the cross every year from the beginning of time. However, instead of making annual sacrifices, Christ has made a singular sacrifice of himself at the end of the ages. Christ's coming ushered in a new era in which everything changed. No more were animal sacrifices required. No longer were people subject to Jewish law. No longer were the people of God restricted to the people of Israel. People from every nation under heaven worship Christ and know salvation from their sins. Jesus' mission was to sacrifice himself on the cross to abolish or to cancel the sin of the world. Towards the end, a reference is made to the second coming of Christ. The purpose of these events will not be destruction, but purification. Therefore, God's people need not fear the coming of the day of the Lord, but can look forward to it with joyful anticipation. Let us begin the reflection over the Gospel with a question. Of all the gifts that you have ever received, which gift do you value the most? Most likely it won't be a big expensive item, but something small and thoughtful that was given to you by someone who loves you. It could be a small letter or a drawing or something handmade perhaps. In the Gospel taken from Mark, Jesus draws a contrast between a scribe and another widow. He wants his disciples to be on guard against the scribes who pursue prestige, respect, honor, and those who devour widows' houses fraudulently. He then draws the disciples' attention to a widow who puts in 2 small copper coins in the temple treasury. It won't be too far-fetched to say that perhaps the widow in today's narrative finds herself in extreme poverty, as a house too has been devoured by such a scribe. Rather than lifting up those with power and influence in the community, Jesus identifies the widow as having given more. She gives herself. As I reflected over this passage, I was deeply moved by this image of a widow giving her only source of sustenance to God. I couldn't fathom how could she do that. This passage made me reflect on our relationship with God. Just as we have a give and take relationship with the shopkeeper, I give money and the shopkeeper gives me a product. We quite often treat God as a shopkeeper. I'll say these prayers and he should grant me my wishes, or I will make this donation and God should answer this prayer of mine. I asked myself, what does God really want? Does he want huge sums of money, or does he want some expensive gifts as offerings? No. He just wants you. We all are struggling in our lives, financial difficulties, emotional difficulties, troubles in relationships, challenges and sufferings are in abundance. In the midst of this, God doesn't want our wealth. He just wants our hearts. I asked myself, what gift am I offering God? And I ask you the same question. What gift are you going to give God? I pray that each one of us will give not out of our abundance, but of ourselves. May God bless us all.